All right, let's get started. Let me just wait for the little icon to pop up, say that I'm going live. Boom, looks like we're live. So traditional intro, what is up everybody? It's Chris from the Rewired Soul, where we talk about the problem, but focus on the solution. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe and ring that notification bell, baby. But yeah, so why am I doing this? Why the heck am I doing this? For a long time, I've had people asking me to share my story, or is there a video about my story of overcoming, my drug addiction, my alcoholism, symptoms of anxiety and depression. Hey everybody, look at all those lovely faces. Ollie's up in here. What's up everybody? So yeah, a lot of people have been asking me to share my story, and so hope you guys are ready to hang out. I don't know how long this is gonna be. It could be 30 minutes, could be an hour. But yeah, so when I share my story, it's to give other people hope, okay? So hopefully that helps. Like, that's something I've always been about. The only reason I ever got hope was I heard other people who went through struggles. And the thing is too, a lot of my audience, a lot of you guys watching, you're not drug addicts or alcoholics, you're not in recovery. And if you're not, that's cool. I hope you stick around. Like, the one thing I want people to take from my story is just that things can get better. You know what I mean? That's it. Now, the other reason I share my story is this. So, I'm gonna Tarantino this real quick. So jumping ahead to 2 years sober, and then I'll go back to the start of it all. So I had 2 years sober, and I was what I call a closet recovering addict and alcoholic. I didn't tell anybody. Like, nobody knew except for my close family and close friends. Nobody knew that I was in recovery from addiction. I was worried that if jobs found out or this or this or this, right? A lot of us don't share our stories, right? And I remember I went to my 12-step meeting and I got a 2-year chip, and I was walking home because still at 2 years sober, I didn't have a car still, all right? And I remember looking down at my 2-year chip and thinking, damn, like I never in a million years, like I never even thought I can get 2 days, let alone 2 years sober. And I'm looking at my coin as I'm walking home and I'm like, how many other people are out there struggling right now, right? They're giving up on life. And by the way, trigger warnings, this is gonna get kind of dark. But I'm like, how many people are out there right now that have no hope and don't think that they could do this too? And then I thought to myself, like, who the fuck am I? Who the hell am I? And this is just my experience. Who am I to deny sharing my story to give other people hope? Like, just something that simple. Just something as simple as saying I have 2 years clean and sober, right? So I went on Facebook that night and I just typed a post. I put a picture of my 2-year coin and I said, 2 years sober. And so many people reached out to me, like people I hadn't talked to in years, like just talking about how they had their own addiction, or a friend or a family member or a coworker or somebody had an addiction or whatever it was. And they reached out to me. I'm like, oh my God, I can actually help people. Like, people are like, how the hell did you do it, right? And I ended up, and still something that I do is when old friends reach out, because I'm the guy who's sober, they reach out and I'm there to help them, I've been fortunate enough and given it, the opportunity to get through this thing and help others. So the reason I share that is I hope all of you share your story at some point or another. And, let's be real quick. I was just talking to my beautiful girlfriend before this. Something I'm not gonna tolerate on my channel is people saying playing the victim, all right? Because in my opinion, just having those comments floating around, especially on a mental health channel, that scares people from sharing their story in fear that people are gonna say, oh, you're just playing the victim. So just so you know, rule update for the Rewired Soul, that is a banned phrase on my channel, and if I see anybody throwing it around to me or to anybody else in the community, boom, gone, all right? We need to encourage more people to share their stories. We need to encourage more people to get vulnerable. We need to encourage more people to tell others that there is hope, all right? So yeah, I'm gonna share my story. I do have the chat. I wanted to live stream this. If you guys wanna chat, share your stories. I already see I'm 2 years sober. That's awesome, congratulations. I don't know how to pronounce your name. But anyways, like if you guys want to chat and everything like that, I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the chat. I'm doing this, like I've shared my story hundreds of times in treatment centers and meetings and stuff like that. And the cats are freaking out right below me. So Yeah, anyways, I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the chat. Talk to each other, encourage each other if you have questions. I might save some time at the end to answer some questions if you haven't. I haven't shared my story in a long time. That's one of the reasons I wanted to share it. I used to share it every single week at the treatment center. But anyways, let's get started. And as I do this, just ask yourself if you can relate to any of my experience or anything like that. And one of the reasons that I teach people to do that is, if you can relate to me in any way, shape, or form, just know I'm not special. I'm not special in any way, shape, or form. If I can do this, anybody can do this. So let's get started. So I was born, obviously, and my parents got divorced when I was 4 years old. And I ended up living with my dad. My mom, as some of you know, she was an alcoholic for the first 20 years of my life. I don't think she started drinking until I was 5, 6, or 7. But anyways, my dad raised me, and I would visit my mom on the holidays, right? Like Christmas and Thanksgiving, summer vacations and everything. And as many of you know, my mom and I, we're both sober today, and we have an amazing relationship, and I love that woman. She's one of my best friends too. But anyways, so I just want to preface that because I got to share part of her story in order to share mine. So as I got kind of older, and as far back I can remember, anytime I went to go visit her, she was just shit-faced drunk, right? And I don't know how many of you were raised or had an alcoholic parent or a caregiver or an addict, alcoholic or caregiver. But anyways, every time I would visit her, she would just get drunk. And she was just drunk every single night. And I had a stepdad, and it bothered me. And as a kid, 7, 8 years old, and like, you gotta understand, I was visiting on the holidays. So like, I was raised, where like Thanksgiving or like Christmas Eve, my mom getting drunk and just my night being ruined, like these holidays where other families are getting together and having fun and all these other things. And I remember like my stepdad having to, carry her out to the car, passed out, and I'd just be sitting in the back seat, just like, why me? Why do I have this family, right? So as I got older, as I became like a teenager and everything, I started to realize this, that, every time I go visit my mom, she's always getting drunk. Like, why am I even gonna visit her anymore? Like, why am I gonna visit her? And I just stopped calling her, stopped going to visit her, just you do your thing, I'll do mine. I just stayed here in Vegas, and I was pretty fortunate to have a best friend, and his family was kind of like my own family. And when I was a teenager and getting into high school, like I made a promise to myself, like I was never gonna drink, I was never gonna do drugs, because the last thing I wanted to do was become my mother, right? Like that was the last thing I wanted to do. Now the issue is, like, children of alcoholics and addicts, we have our own slew of problems. And growing up, like, I remember somebody saying in a meeting a phrase that I never heard before, which is, I was uncomfortable in my own skin, right? And that clicked with me, like I knew what they meant. So from the outside in like middle school and high school, it seemed fine. Like everything seemed fine. If you looked at me, you'd be like, oh, Chris, haha, it's Chris, right? I joked around, I was very outgoing, you know what I mean? I played sports and everything like that. But on the inside, I was freaking out constantly. High school is when I developed symptoms of depression and anxiety, and because they didn't teach us about depression and anxiety in school, like, I don't know about you, but I was never taught about that stuff. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to do. I was constantly freaking out. Like, I remember looking at people and just, I couldn't understand how people were so happy. Like, I didn't get it. Like, it was almost like I was an alien, like, looking at humanity, like, how are you happy? Like, how is this possible? Because I just wasn't. I was severely depressed, and my anxiety was out of control, which, you know, you can attribute to, you know, being the son of an alcoholic mom. My dad was gone all the time. I'm probably gonna do a video at some point about childhood anxiety, because it's some real stuff. I don't know how many of you can relate to that, and a lot of it is just not feeling comfortable with the care of our parents and all that nonsense. But anyways. So I ended up dating a girl in high school, and she was, you know, she was Mormon. So here in Las Vegas, those of you who don't know, ton of Mormons. I was raised around a ton of Mormons. So I found my little high school sweetheart, and we dated for pretty much most of like sophomore, junior, and I think half of senior year. And like, I was, you get that little high school sweetheart, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna marry this girl, right? And that's how it was. And I knew there was gonna eventually be obstacles because typically Mormons only marry other Mormons, and she was like very Mormon. I used to go to church with her and stuff like that, you know, because I'm a supportive ass boyfriend. And anyways, towards the middle of senior year, out of nowhere, boom, she broke up with me. She broke up with me. And the other emotion I felt a lot, aside from my depression and my anxiety, was anger. I was always angry at the world. I was so fucking angry that everybody had a better life than I did, right? And when she broke up with me, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, kind of, but this is something I haven't shared in my story like ever, but hell, let's do this. I ended up dating another girl who was like the hot girl at school to kind of make her jealous, right? And I ended up dating her. And if any of you saw my video I made, I don't know, a week ago or something, and I mentioned a girlfriend who had cheated on me, it was that girl, right? So after my high school sweetheart broke up with me, then I go to date this, you know, the hot girl in school. She cheated on me, and I just had so much fucking anger, and I had so many emotions. I had so many things, and nobody ever taught me how to deal with my emotions. And looking back on it, I think this is why a lot of people turn to drugs and alcohol, because nobody fucking teaches us how to deal with those emotions. So although I was a triathlete, I did football and wrestling and track, I never went to parties, ever, right? Me and my friends would hang out and do goofy stuff, but I always turned down parties like after the football games and everything like that. And this was towards the end of my senior year. And I was so sick and tired of feeling those emotions, and I just wanted the pain to go away. I wanted the hurt to go away. I wanted my head to shut up. I wanted everything to go away. So I got invited to a party. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. So I went to the party, and I had a friend make me like a mixed drink, and they made it pretty strong. And I started drinking, and like, you get that little buzz, but as soon as that buzz went from like a buzz to like drunk, this is how I know I'm an addict and alcoholic. Like the second that happened, I just got this sense of relief that I had never felt before in my life, right? And it was everything, right? I was no longer anxious. I didn't have social anxiety. I wasn't worried about talking to other people or anything like that. I was able to be outgoing. I started to be happy, like really happy, not just putting on a happy. I felt relaxed and happy. I wasn't angry. I forgot about everything. And I was just like this. And I remember in that moment when I got drunk, I remember like forgiving my mom in that moment. Like, no wonder why she does this. It's amazing, right? And I was an alcoholic from the second I took that first drink. Like for the rest of the summer, I got invited to other parties, and I would go there and I wouldn't be like, yo, where's the beer? Let's hang out. I was like, where's the liquor? Because I wanted that feeling again. I wanted that feeling that would numb the pain and make me happy, make me outgoing, make me relax, and all those other things. So I went straight for the liquor, and I ended up moving up to college in Northern California, and we partied all the time. But like my alcoholism at that time, it was kind of masked by like the college scene, right? Like it was normal for a group of us to like take shots of vodka before going to one of our classes, right? It was normal. We would party during the week. Like this was just normal. So like for me, it was, I couldn't, part of addiction for me is being that denial, right? And I was able to stay in that denial because everybody else was doing it. And I remember one time, all my friends went out of town and I was still there, and we had like a bottle of vodka, and I had just the worst cravings ever. Like I wanted to. Thank you, Heather. And I hope all of you are having a good time in the chat. So there was a bottle of vodka there, and just my head just kept saying, drink it, drink it, drink it, because I was bored, right? I was fucking bored. So I'm like, get drunk. That's fun. Then you won't be bored anymore. And I remember thinking like, no, Chris, you can't drink alone. Like if you drink alone, that means you have a problem. But that insane voice in my head managed to justify me drinking that. So like, I just drank that bottle of vodka and I got drunk by myself. And then it made it easier to do other things. So anyways, I ended up leaving college after a semester, bunch of dumb shit, but I ended up moving back home, and I ended up moving in with a couple buddies I knew from high school, and they were then at UNLV, the local college here, and they were both pledging in a fraternity. So I got a job, but like they were just full-time students living off student loans. I think maybe they had part-time jobs or something like that. But anyways, I got back into a college type environment where my roommates drank all the time. So it was easy for me to just keep drinking. I remember getting home from work and my friends would just have shots lined up and I would drink. So I ended up getting a job at a car dealership. I ended up getting a job at a car dealership, and I would like be drunk at work all the time, and it just didn't matter. Like there was no problems, no consequences, anything like that. But with anything I do, my YouTube channel is an example of that. But with any job I have, when I get a job, like I work my fucking ass off, and I want to rise in the ranks, and I want to be the best, and all these other things. So at that job, I got raises and promotions very quickly, and I got promoted to a service advisor at the car dealership. So those of you who don't know what a service advisor is, if you've ever had a car from a car dealership, or you ever gone into a car dealership with a broken car, I'm the guy that you fucking yell at, okay? Like I was a service advisor, and I was not prepared for the amount of stress that was gonna bring. And one of the reasons, like looking back on it, like it was so difficult to be a service advisor was because I was a people pleaser and there was no way to please everybody, right? And I didn't know how to handle it. So once again, this is gonna be a common theme throughout my story, and you might be able to relate to this. Once again, I didn't know how to handle the emotions that were coming my way. So what did I start to do? I started to drink every single night. I didn't know how to leave work at work, so every single night I would get blackout drunk, right? And then it got to a point where I couldn't wait to get home, so I would stop by the gas station, get some tall cans, and I would drink them on my way to work. And then it got to a point where every morning I would wake up for work, I was like, you know what, today's gonna fucking suck too. So in the morning, I would slam shots of rum before going into work, all right? And like, that's what I was doing. And eventually it got to a point where right around lunchtime, my hand would start to do this, and I had no idea what this was. My hand shaking. And I started talking to my friends and saying, oh, let's go to the bar and play pool at lunch. And what I would do at lunch was I would drink and my hand would stop shaking. And like my hand was shaking so bad, like I remember trying to eat and like the fork or the spoon would be shaking like I was having a fucking seizure. But anyways, all I knew was when I drank, that went away. And those of you who know what was going on with me, like you know what was happening. Those of you who don't know, I was experiencing withdrawal. So I wasn't even 21 yet. Like it was a crazy thing. Now I think back about it, I don't know how I got so much booze. Or no, I was 21 when I still worked there. Anyways, who fucking cares? Everybody, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so I was perpetually drinking. So I made that dealership a lot of money. And one of the things too that a lot of people experience, we become those functioning addict and alcoholics. Like I didn't think I had a problem because I was making the business money, my bosses loved me, customers loved me and everything like that. Even though I smelled like booze every single day that I went in there, my nickname there was Rum Jungle because every day I smelled like the rum was seeping out of my pores, right? But what it eventually happened was I stopped performing as well. And then next thing you know, I'm calling out sick, I'm hungover, I was showing up to work still drunk from the night before. So one day I ended up calling in sick and one of my buddies calls me from work and he says, hey Chris, like they know that you drink, they know all this stuff. They said, Chris, they're gonna drug test you tomorrow when you come back into work. And I'm like, fine. Alcohol only stays in your system for 24 hours. I have until tomorrow to get drug tested. Fuck it, I just won't drink today. And that was cool, right? But like, right around like the early afternoon, my brain was thinking, because this is the kind of crazy justifications addicts and alcoholics have. My brain starts thinking, well, Chris, if you only have a beer, then it should be out of your system by then, right? So I had a beer. And then I'm like, well, Chris, if you only have like one mixed drink, it should be out of your system by then, right? So I have a mixed drink. And next thing you know, I get completely drunk. I somehow justified it. So even though I knew the next day that they were going to test me for alcohol, I still did it anyways. And I go in, they drug test me. A week later, they call me in the office and I get fired. Wait. Excuse me. I didn't get fired. They asked me to resign. And when that happened, when I lost my first job because of my alcoholism, it wasn't my fault, right? It was my shitty boss. I hated that place anyways. I wanted to leave. Management sucked. Customers sucked. My coworkers sucked. All these things. It was everybody's fault except for my own, right? And what ended up happening, and I used to always tell my clients this in Vegas, was like, Vegas is one of the easiest places to get a job. And I know that because after that job, I ended up getting like half a dozen other jobs. And I couldn't hold on to a job because the cycle just kept repeating over and over and over again. All right. So anyways, eventually it was getting really bad. I kept losing jobs. And during one of the times I was unemployed, I met my son's mother, and we were together, and I was unemployed. I had to like beg her to buy me booze, and she was like basically supporting me. My roommates were supporting me because I didn't have a fucking job. I couldn't pay rent. And I remember finding out that she was pregnant with our son. And I remember just thinking, thank God we're having a kid. Like, I thought like, okay, now I have a reason. Now I have a reason to get better and get my fucking life together. Like, I was 24 years old, so everybody I went to high school with, they were graduating college, they were getting married, they were buying a house and everything. Meanwhile, I'm an alcoholic living with my roommates, you know, and whatever. So I'm like, okay, now that I'm gonna have a kid, like, I'm gonna do everything for that kid that my parents didn't do for me. I'm gonna be there for him. I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. You know, I'm gonna make sure he always has clothes and food and toys, and I'm emotionally there for him. All the ideas of being a good parent, I was gonna do that for my son. And I busted ass and I ended up finding a job. And this is, the day my son was born was one of the, like, for us alcoholics, it's important to recognize that our thought process is much different than other people, and here's what I mean. So my son was supposed to be born like the week after New Year's Eve. No. The week before New Year's Eve, he was supposed to be born. And anyways, the doctor said to her, you're not dilating. We're gonna have to induce you. We'll bring you in the week after New Year's, right? So we're like, okay, cool. So my girl, you know, I told her like, I wanna get sober, I wanna get better. And you know, when he's born, I wanna be a good father. And she says, okay, Chris, how about this? On New Year's Eve, that could be your last hurrah, right? So I'm like, fuck it. I live in Vegas. I'm gonna go get completely shit-faced. Last time I get drunk, that's it, right? So on New Year's Eve, I get to work. It's like 7 in the morning. I'm all fucking pumped that night I'm gonna get wrecked. And right when I get to work at like 7 in the morning, I get a phone call from her that her water broke. And here's where I recognize that my thinking is not the same as a normal person's. Because the first thought that came to mind was, shit, I can't go out and party tonight. Like, that is fucked up thinking, right? Like, most people, when they find out their son is coming into this world, they're excited for their son to be born. But I'm thinking about how this kid's already ruining my buzz. That shit ain't normal, all right? So anyways, it was a long labor. We went there and we talked, and she said, okay, you know, I know you were gonna go out and party tonight. After things calm down with the baby, you can go out and have your last hurrah. So I'm like, okay. So a little bit after he was born, and by this time my mom was actually sober, I went out and had my last hurrah, and I got really drunk. But it wasn't like that epic getting drunk thing that I wanted. So I was like, I'm not done, right? So all I did at that point, after my son was born, even though my son was gonna be the thing that made me stop, all I did was I hit it more. So on my way home from work, I would stop at the liquor store and I would drink, I would I would take shots of a bottle and like wash it down with Red Bull, and I never chewed gum. See, that's the thing about us addicts and alcoholics. We always think we're hiding it really well. Like, I never chewed gum, and I would like come home late from work with just like 5 pieces of gum to like, right, trying to cover it up, and I reek of booze, so I was like fucking, you know, hiding it very well. And anyways, my kid's mom, and my son was only a few months old, she ended up taking my son to her mom's house and said, we're not coming back until you get sober, right? And I was destroyed. I got messed up and everything, and she ended up finding me. She had to come back to the house to pick something up. She ended up finding me, passed out in my car while it was running, and thank God it was in park. Like, I was going to like go get more booze, and I was totally drunk, and I just passed out in my car while it was running, and she knocked on my window. And I knew I needed to do something. Well, around that time, a friend came to me, and they asked me, they said, have you ever had, you know, pain pills? I'm like once or twice, like, What, right? So my friend was like, well, if you want to quit drinking, why don't you just do these pills instead? I'm like, okay. So my friend, like, they like crush them up for me and teach me how to snort them. And I did that. And I'm like, holy shit. And I fell in love with painkillers because they did the same thing as alcohol for me, right? They got rid of all those feelings and emotions and everything, but I didn't smell like booze. It was much easier to conceal. You know, I didn't have a hangover. I'm like, oh shit, I got painkillers now. So my kid's mom, she actually had a C-section, and she was given 200 painkillers. So I started taking handfuls of those to work with me and just eating them like Tic Tacs. And I thought I got better because I quit drinking. My girl was happy. I was happy. So I thought I was better because I switched from one substance to another. But that's all I did. And part of the story that gets a little confusing for some people, but it's something I have to share, is before my son's mom, I was dating another girl who was an alcoholic too, and her and I used to talk about getting sober all the time. We had this toxic on-again, off-again relationship. All we did was drink. I actually made a video about her. But anyways, not long after my son was born, the last time I saw her, she came over to see my son, and she told me how proud she was of me, because her and I had always talked about getting sober, and now she saw that I wasn't drinking, and she told me she was proud of me because I did it. And it meant a lot to me, even though I was doing pills, right? And anyways, a month after she came over, like almost a month to the day after she came over to see my son, I got a phone call from one of my best friends that she was rushed to the emergency room, and like her grandma found her having a seizure or something like that and convulsing. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, I gotta go see her, because she was still one of my best friends, even though she was an ex. And I was getting ready and I'm freaking out. I'm like, I gotta go see what's going on with Courtney. I gotta go see. And before I can even get out the door, I get another phone call from my best friend saying, hey, Chris, they pulled the plug and Courtney passed away. And yeah, so one of my best friends in the world passed away at age 24. And I didn't know how to fucking deal with that. And I remember, I can't remember if this was back in MySpace days or whatever, but I remember being so fucking pissed because everybody's like, oh, let's go celebrate Courtney. And the way they wanted to celebrate and honor her life was to go to the bar and get drunk. And I was fucking furious. I'm like, alcohol just killed her, and now you want to go honor her memory by getting drunk? Like, she had a problem, right? But meanwhile, since I didn't know how to deal with that grief and that loss, I ended up drinking again. So I started drinking and taking pills, and I felt like an absolute piece of shit because now I'm disrespecting her memory. So I hid my drinking and I was still taking pills, and I ended up getting a job in California, and we moved out there. And when we moved out there, I was still grieving the loss of my friend, and I was hiding my drinking. And I got a brand new job. I uprooted my entire family. And you would think for somebody it'd be like, don't fuck this up, right? Especially because my kid's mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was supporting everybody and everything. And anyways, I was stopping at the liquor store before work, at lunch, and after work, right? And I was finding pills and everything. And one day I got home, and she was pretty fucking pissed because she found my bank password. And every single day she saw that 123 liquor store, 123 liquor store, 123 liquor store. And she's like, Chris, what the fuck is this, right? And right, I'm drinking. And she's like, Chris, you need to go to a 12-step meeting. This is actually in Fresno. We lived there for about a year while we were still together. She's like, you need to start going to 12-step meetings, or I'm taking our son and I'm going back to Vegas. And I was like, really? Peace the fuck out. Right? Because my brain was telling me I'm a grown-ass man and I don't need anybody fucking telling me what I should and shouldn't do. Especially when I'm, supporting us and everything. And if she only understood what I was going through, she'd understand why I need to drink, right? So my bright idea was to walk out. I can't remember to this day why I didn't take the fucking car, but I walked out, and I walked like a mile and a half to the liquor store. I got a bottle of rum, and I sat at a bus stop bench and I drank it. Like, my thought was, oh, okay, you're gonna tell me not to drink? Well, now I'm gonna drink just to piss you off, right? And I got shit-faced. So anyways, I come home to an intervention, all right? It was my mom and my girlfriend, and basically she gave me an ultimatum. This was early in the week. She said, Chris, you have until Friday. And unless you go to like 12-step meetings, like me and Dylan are out of here, we're gonna go stay with your mom. So she took the kid and she went to go stay with my mom. And I was stubborn. I was a stubborn fucking asshole. I was like, no, fuck this. But finally by Friday, on the last day, because I'm a procrastinator, I called her up and I literally said this. I said, listen, if it'll shut you up, I'll go to AA meetings, right? And I think it's important to share that because a lot of people go just to shut somebody up. Like a lot of people who are in treatment just went to shut somebody up, right? So I go to a 12-step meeting. The first meeting I go to, it's in a fucking church, and I'm like, screw this. They're gonna try to convert me to Christianity. They're gonna shove Jesus down my throat. I grew up around a bunch of Mormons. I ain't about that life, so screw this. So for 3 months, I sat in those rooms, I stared at the clock, shut down, didn't pay attention to anything in there. I just zoned out and stared at that clock, right? And I didn't do anything that they suggested I do. So anyways, I ended up talking to my kid's mom because I was sober for 3 months. And I talked to her and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm like, my problem is with liquor, not with beer. I'm like, maybe I could start drinking beer again. She's like, yeah, I guess so, right? And then that went on for a couple weeks. And then I was like, you know, my problem's with drinking liquor during the weekdays. Maybe I could drink on the weekends. And she's like, yeah, I guess that's okay. And then it was like, you know, maybe I could just drink liquor a few times a week. And what I'm saying is, us alcoholics and addicts, like in our act of addiction, we are manipulative motherfuckers. And this is no fault against my son's mom. She didn't know any better. I didn't know any better, right? So next thing you know, I'm off and running again. And anyways, we ended up moving back to Las Vegas. I'm in my addiction again. I got a job, lost a job. She ends up leaving me, and now I feel like a piece of shit, right? I'm a single dad. I broke up our family because of my drinking and using. I couldn't stop using, and I ended up getting a job that lasted for 2 weeks. And I slept through my alarm, and I got fired, and on my way home, I started sobbing. I was crying like a fucking baby, just snot bubbles and everything. I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, I can't live like this anymore. I need help, right? and my mom dropped everything she was doing, drove all the way down to Las Vegas, which is like a 6 or 7 hour drive, just to check me into a detox center here in Las Vegas. And I went into that detox center, and I think it's important to understand, like, I was at that point of just desperation where I was willing to do anything to get better. I was sick and tired of living the way I was living. I was willing to do fucking anything. And I went into that detox center, and the next morning I wake up and we do our first little group. And in that first group, the very first group, less than 12 hours later probably, people start sharing, and I'm just like, oh my God, you did meth? Ugh. Oh, what, you did heroin? You did cocaine? I'm like, oh my God. And my crazy ass brain starts to tell me that I'm in the wrong place. I don't really have a problem, right? So I start becoming, I start becoming, trying to think that I'm like this messiah of the treatment center, because everybody else in there, they have problems and I'm the sane one. So I'm like going around and I'm like, here, take my number. I'll help you out when you get out of here. I'll be there for you. And I'm like giving people advice. And just to let you know, nobody fucking called me when I left, probably because I knew I was full of shit. Like, here's the thing, like nobody goes to a fucking detox center because everything's going good in their life, right? So when I checked out of that treatment center, the caseworker, they gave me a list of meetings. They gave me a list of an outpatient, they assigned me to an outpatient program. So I left that and I looked at the meeting list. I'm like, well, I already tried meetings, fuck that. And I went to the outpatient treatment once, and it was just a bunch of people sharing their problems, and I don't need that type of negativity in my life. So I stopped going to that. And once again, I stayed sober for 3 months. So what ended up happening for my last relapse was this. And it's crazy how this shit happens with drug addiction. So I was getting, like, things were going great. I got a promotion at work within 3 months. I was saving money. Like, if you're a drug addict like me and you quit using drugs, you get an instant fucking pay raise. So I was making a lot more money. And I started working out again. I'm like, I'm gonna get in shape. And I ended up hurting my shoulder, and I went to the emergency room. And they ended up prescribing me Vicodin, right? And I went home with that prescription for Vicodin. And I stared at it, which seemed like an hour, but it was probably only like 5 minutes. But I remember staring at it, and there's one voice on the side of my head that's like, Chris, you have a problem with these things. You're not even in pain anymore, right? You don't need these, and whenever you take these things, you can't fucking stop, right? So there's this logical voice in my head telling me, Chris, you don't need those pills. But then there's this other voice in my head that says, Chris, it says take one every 4 hours for pain, right? And then it's saying, Chris, any fucking idiot can take one pill every 4 hours for pain. And that voice, that addiction voice, is always so much louder than our normal voice. So I took that one pill, and I shit you not, within seconds, before a pill even goes in your body and breaks up and does whatever it does to give you that buzz, within seconds, my brain said, Chris, 1 5 milligram Vicodin ain't gonna do shit for you, right? So I took 3 more. By the next day, that entire pill bottle was gone, and my drug dealer, who had been calling me and I'd been ignoring for 3 months, I called him up and I was off and running again. And it's so important to understand, especially for me, that one pill, that one fucking pill, that one pill kicked off an addiction that almost took my life. It kicked off a relapse that almost ended my life, all right? Because one thing about relapse is you feel like an absolute piece of shit, right? I told my family, I told my friends, I told my kid's mom that I was going into treatment. I even had lunch with my son's mom and my son right before I went into that detox center. So when I relapsed, I let all those people down, and I let myself down. So I hid it, and I felt like such a piece of garbage, right? But as with any relapse, it becomes more apparent over time, and things just started getting worse. And it kicked off for 1.5 years, but anyways, I ended up losing everything. We call these the yets, right? Because when I looked at other drug addicts and alcoholics, I'm like, oh, you lost your job? I still got a job. Oh, you lost your car? I still got a car. Oh, you lost your family? I still got a family. Oh, no, right? Oh, you lost all your money? I still have money. Over that 1.5 years, I lost all that shit. I lost everything. I lost the job. I lost my truck. I got evicted from my apartment. I got evicted from my apartment and had to crash on couches before my truck got fucking impounded for not paying my registration insurance. I was sleeping in my fucking truck, right? And worst of all, my son was about 3 years old and he just started talking. I'm sorry, hold on. I haven't talked about this in a long time. He was about 3 years old and he just started talking, and I was getting drunk and high, and I had him on the weekends, and he would go back home and he would tell his mom, Daddy's sleeping, right? And my kid's mom would call me up like freaking out. I'm like, oh no, he's just a kid. He's just saying that I'm always sleeping, right? But I was getting fucked up, and he was 3 fucking years old. And the insanity of addiction is that, like, we think we're there, but even though we're there physically, we're not really there. And my kid's mom ended up saying, listen, you're not allowed to see Dylan anymore. And I got fucking pissed, right? I got fucking pissed at her. Like, and this is why I tell everybody to get a better fucking friend group. Because rather than getting sober, I would go out and get drunk and high with my friends. By this time, I got introduced to fucking cocaine too. And I would go out with my friends and talk about what a bitch she was for taking my son away from me, for taking his father away from him, right? And my friends would be like, yeah, fuck her, she's fucked up, right? Like, not one of my quote unquote friends said, Chris, how about you straighten the fuck up? So that's one of the reasons I get so hard on people. By check who's in your support group. Check who your real friends are. These people were enabling me. Nobody in my life told me to get my fucking act together. And the thing was, I got into a place where I just absolutely fucking hated myself. And I kept all the lights off in my apartment every single day. I never turned on the lights because there was like mirrors, right? Bathroom mirrors and things like that. And the last thing I wanted to do was see my own reflection because I was such a piece of shit in my mind, right? And I didn't want to live anymore, but I wasn't going to kill myself. So I was just taking as many drugs and drinking as much as I could. And it was fucking a terrible mess. and I mentioned this in a video I did yesterday, like every night I was going to sleep with a handful of pills and a bottle of booze, hoping that I don't wake up the next morning. And every day I had to wake up the next morning like, oh great, I gotta go through this bullshit again. And eventually my legs started swelling up and they were in pain. And I would go to the hospital, and basically I would go to the emergency room, no health insurance, by the way. I'd go to the emergency room, they'd give me something to flush my system, and they'd give me pain meds. Every 2 weeks I would go to the emergency room, right? And finally, after going to the emergency room, by the way, I never told them about my drugs or alcohol because they tell you don't do that anymore. But by the like 5th or 6th time I go to the emergency room, something like that, they're like, hey, you're in here all the time. We think there's something going on. We're gonna check you in and run some tests. And anyways, my mom was always my emergency contact, and they ended up calling my mom and they said, you might want to come down to Las Vegas because we don't think your son's gonna live through the night. So what happened was I had congestive heart failure from my drug and alcohol addiction. My heart was the size of my lung. I had a 10% chance of living, less than 25% of my heart was functioning, and they thought I was gonna die, right? And that next morning, my mom, my aunt, my best friend, and my kid's mom were in my hospital room in the cardiac critical care unit. The cardiac fucking critical care unit with all these like seniors, right? I'm fucking 26 years old in there. And anyways, my family and friends were in my room and they're crying and they're begging me to stop. They're like, Chris, you gotta stop. Chris, we love you. Chris, you have a son and everything. And I told him, I said, give up on me. Just fucking give up on me because I've already tried to get clean before. I can't get clean. I told him, I can't get clean, just fucking let me die. And in that insanity, my brain told me that my son would be better off without a father. My brain told me that my son would be better off with a dead father than having a drunk, junkie fuck up of a dad. That's where my brain was. That's how low I got. And anyways, since I didn't have health insurance, they ended up kicking me out of the hospital after about 5 days. I didn't have an apartment to go to. I didn't have anything. So my mom brought me back to California with her. And I wasn't going to California to get sober. I was just going back there to reset, right? I even had my drug dealer while my mom was getting the rental car. I had no intention on getting sober. I had my drug dealer come and deliver me more pills in the hospital. I was hooked up to fucking IVs and heart monitors, and he delivers me pills, and I drive to California with my mom. I have an oxygen tank like I'm 90 fucking years old, and I go there, and yeah, my mom was sober, and no drugs or alcohol in the house, right? So I took my stash of pills and I hid him in this really good fucking hiding spot. And every time she would go to sleep or she wasn't looking or whatever, like, so the last night I got high, I was up until 4 a.m. crushing morphine pills in her kitchen and snorting them. And I ended up going to sleep at like 4 in the morning, and my mom wakes me up. She's like, Chris. I'm like, yeah, what? And she's like, I found your pills. I'm like, yeah, whatever, right? And she's like, I threw them away. And I woke the fuck up. I'm like, you what? You what? And my mom gave me an ultimatum. She said, you're going into sober living or you're going back home to Vegas to live on the streets. And the only thing scarier to me than getting sober was living on the streets of Las Vegas in June. It is hot as a motherfucker up in here, right? But I begged my mom not to send me to sober living. I wanted to do it my way. Don't we always just want to do it our own way? Doesn't matter if it's addiction, depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever it is, we want to do it our own way, right? So I begged her like a 5-year-old. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to move into that sober living. But she stood her ground. For the first time, my mom stood her ground with me, and I finally conceded. And I ended up calling up the guy who owned the sober living house, and he was this retired cop, right? And he'd been sober for like 20 or 30 years. And it's crazy because nobody can get through to me. Not my friends, not my family, not my parents. Nobody can get through to me. And I was talking to this guy, and he was all happy and cheery. I remember he sounded like the Macho Man, right? He's like, hey, what's up, brother? Or whatever. Or is that Hulk Hogan? I don't know. Anyways, and he's like, you ready to move in or whatever? I'm like, dude, I don't want to move in. Fuck this, fuck everybody. I don't want to move in with a bunch of drug addicts and alcoholics. And he said something to me that changed my entire life. And I don't know why, because nobody else can get through to me. And all he said was this. He said, Chris, what do you have to lose? And I don't know what happened. When he said that, my life, like the last 5 years of my life just flashed before my eyes. Like, I lost everything. I fucking lost everything. There was no other thing that I could lose. I lost my money, I lost my house, I lost my friends, I lost my family, lost my fucking dignity, lost my son, and he asked me, what do you have to lose? And I realized I didn't have anything to lose. So my clean date is June 23rd, 2012. And I actually wasn't able to move in for a bed to open up until like the 24th. But on my birthday, my mom bought me my favorite pizza, me and Ed's. Thanks, Gary. My mom bought me my favorite pizza, me and Ed's, and she got some stupid cinnamon roll things. She put a candle in it. So I got sober on my actual birthday. Okay, I got sober on my 27th birthday. Makes things easy when I'm celebrating my birthday. But anyway, she put a fucking candle in this little cinnamon dessert thing, and she sings me happy birthday, and I'm fucking pissed. And she looks me in the eyes, and she has tears in her eyes, and she says, Chris, this is the best birthday present I could ever give you. And I looked her right in the eyes, and I said, why don't you go fuck yourself? All right? And the only reason I share that with people is this. A lot of people think that in order to get sober, you have to want to get sober. I am living proof that you don't have to want to get sober, okay? I did not want to get sober. I was forced into getting sober, okay? I did not want to get sober, but something fucking happened, and I'm here today clean and sober. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to get sober, that's okay. I still have hope for you. If you have a friend or a family member who doesn't want to get sober, that's okay. I still have hope for them because I'm living fucking proof that you don't have to want to get sober to stay sober. So anyways, I moved into this sober living house. I lied to the doctor about how much I was using, so he didn't give me any Suboxone, so I did a cold turkey opiate withdrawal, which was the worst experience of my fucking life, and I laid in bed just puking, crapping, cramping, shaking, sweating, everything that goes along with opiate withdrawal, and I just laid in bed, miserable, and I isolated myself because fuck everybody else in the house, I don't want to talk to you, right? And once the fog kind of lifted after I went through withdrawals, everything started coming at me, right? Because I felt like a piece of shit the entire time I was a drug addict. There was a part of me that knew I was a piece of shit, right? And as soon as the fog cleared up from my withdrawals, I started remembering about all the people I hurt, all the people I lied to, right? My mom almost lost her son. My son almost lost his dad. My kid's mom was about to be a single mom because of a dead drug addict dad, and I felt so bad. But here's the thing. Whenever I felt like that, I would go get drunk or high, but now I'm living in a sober living house and they'll kick me out if I go get drunk or high. So what can I do? And I had to go to 5 meetings a week. And the first week I just forged my signatures. But in that moment of desperation, and I had to get out of my head, I went up to some of the guys in the house. I said, hey, are you going to a 12-step meeting? Even though I hated 12-step meetings, I'm like, hey, are you going to a meeting? Can you bring me with you? So they brought me to a meeting. I sat down in the meeting and I listened to everybody share their stories. And an hour went by and I realized after that meeting that by listening to other people, my crazy head shut up, right? I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna do this more often. But there's still 23 hours in a day, right? So I started going to 2 meetings a day. All right. Then I started going to 3 meetings a day. And then that was like my cutoff. I don't go to more than 3 meetings a day. But something happened by staying in those meetings. When I first went to these meetings, I looked at people and I was like, you guys are all full of shit. There's no way you guys are sober. There's absolutely no way. What, you don't even drink beer? Like, that was a crazy idea to me, right? But I started listening to these stories and something happened that had never happened before, which was I started to have this glimmer of hope. I started to listen to people who had worse rock bottoms than me. They had better rock bottoms than me, right? And it just blew my fucking mind. Like, I met homeless people who were happier than me because they were sober, you know? And I started talking to the guys in my sober living house, and for the first time in my entire fucking life, I had people who understood me. I heard people sharing about the pain I felt, the craziness in my head. I heard them sharing about the way they hurt other people. I heard people sharing about how people, you know, cut them off and everything. I never met anybody that could identify with the pain that I felt. But the difference is they had a fucking solution. And I wanted that. I wanted that so bad. I wanted to get better so bad because I finally realized that it was possible. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I went from being hopeless to hopeful. And I finally realized that I was going to do whatever the fuck it took to get that thing. They said to find people who have what you want. And the only things that I wanted was a little bit of peace and a little bit of sanity. I didn't even want happiness. I just didn't want my brain to be going fucking nuts 24/7, right? And that's all I wanted. And they told me all I had to do was a few things. I had to be honest, open-minded, and willing. Those were the only 3 things I had to do. But the trick is when you become honest, open-minded, and willing, everything starts coming together. So I went out and I got a sponsor, even though I thought that was fucking stupid. I started getting into the big book, which I thought was stupid. I started working the steps, which I thought was stupid. I started to pray to a God that I didn't believe in because I thought that was stupid. And all I knew was I made it past 3 months sober. I had never gotten past 3 months sober in my entire fucking life. And one day at a time, that 3 months turned into 4 months, which turned into 6 months, which turned into a year sober. I was a guy, I was the hopeless fucking drug addict and alcoholic who could not stop drinking or using. How the fuck did I make it through a year? How did I make it through a year, right? And it's because I was working my ass off and doing what I was told to do. I had to crush my fucking ego and start listening to suggestions. I thought I was always the smartest fucking person at any given moment, and I started to have to listen. I had to realize that I can't trust this thing. I cannot trust this thing. When I trust this thing, it gets me into trouble. Sometimes it still does. Waka, waka, waka. But anyways, I had to start taking suggestions, and I was willing to do whatever it took. And I started digging deep down. I started to find the root of my problems. I started working on my insecurities. I started working on my childhood traumas. I started working on, my anger issues. I started looking at my relationships. I started being of service to other people. The best thing I ever did was to quit being such a selfish fucking prick and starting to do things for other people. All right? And that is like the best thing. Like, I don't care what you're struggling with right now. The best thing you can do to quit being caught up in your problems 24/7 is do something for other people. I actually have a video coming out tomorrow. It's a surprise that we talk about this a little bit, but do things for other people. It'll get you out of me, me, me. Oh, my life's so bad. Oh, everything's so terrible. Oh, why me? Why me? Why me? Right? Start helping other people with their problems and you'll start to feel better. I swear to you. I promise you. And the last thing I'll kind of share is this. My first year sober was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, but I made it through it. But my second year sober ended up being fucking harder than my first year sober because I ended up moving back to Vegas, finding a job, being a father again. But I guess, I'll end with this. My life is so fucking amazing today. It is so amazing today. And people don't get how I can still smile and laugh with the drama and bullshit going on. And my life is fucking amazing. I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug today. I don't gotta worry about who I'm gonna lie, cheat, or steal from to get money for my drug dealer. I don't gotta worry about owing drug dealers money. I don't gotta wake up with a hangover. I don't gotta wake up and wonder who the fuck I drunk texted last night. My son's mom and I have an amazing fucking relationship today. My son and I have an amazing relationship today. I have my beautiful girlfriend, Tristan, who's my ride or die chick, right? I have all of you. I've been given this gift to take my story, to take my experience, to take the work that I've been doing and share it with all of you. And I've been fortunate enough that I've actually been able to turn this into a career. I've been able to take my pain, my immense pain, everything I've been through, and turn it into something that has made my life just fucking amazing. And here's the thing, I wouldn't change a damn thing because everything from my past, and I know it sounds cliche as fuck, but everything from my past has made me a stronger, better person, all right? And yeah, even though I'll still have missteps, what they say from the program that I'm from is this: I would rather take my worst day sober over my best day drunk and high. So all of this other shit that's been happening in my life is a bunch of bullshit. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to share my story today, because I haven't done it in so long. And me sharing this story, not only does it help you, but it helps me too. It helps you. So by the way, go share your story, even if you just sit somebody down and share your fucking story with them. It helps me remember how far I've come. The drug addict, the guy, I got sober with an oxygen tank, a few pairs of clothes, and no money. And everybody hated me. And I have my life back. And it's not about the things, it's not about my computer or my fancy Blue Yeti microphone. It's not even that fancy, it's like 80 bucks. I have an apartment with air conditioning. I have a fucking ceiling fan over my head, right? I know where my next meal is coming from. If I call my friends and family members, they're gonna pick up the fucking phone. Like, my life is so amazing today. So amazing today, and I am so fucking grateful for it. And that's why ain't nobody gonna steal my sparkle, baby, and nobody should steal yours either. If you've been through any kind of struggle, like, I truly believe that you're a badass, and when you are ready, you should take your story, take your experience. And that's why I'm so saddened that we had to get rid of the Facebook and Discord group, but I really wanna figure out a way to get that back up and going. It's just fucking difficult. But that's what I loved about that group. It was just a bunch of people sharing their experiences with each other, you know, giving each other hope, being there, letting them know that they understand, they feel that hurt, they feel that pain. They would give each other hope, they would give each other suggestions. Just, man, I miss those groups. But anyways, that's my story. Thank you all for hanging out. I'll stay on for like another 10 minutes. If you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to check them. I see Gary Dodge sent, and thank you guys just for listening. You know, again, this was for you, but it was for me too. Gary Dodge, do you believe in God now? Gary, I'm spiritual, not religious. That sounds corny and stupid. I know some people hate that. Like, I just... Spirituality for me is just knowing that I'm not in control. Like, that's it, right? Like, I'm not in control. I'm not in control of the weather. I'm not in control of people, places, and situations. So me, like, my prayer is more of a meditation. Gary, if you want, I made a video last year called, like, My Biggest Secret Revealed. I think it was in October or early November, right before we moved in here. But I just, my higher power is just knowing that I'm not in control. But I'm not religious, like, so I don't think about, like, am I going to heaven? Am I going to hell? Or, you know, whatever it is. Let the Meat Words, leader of the Meatball Brigade. I love your name, by the way. Hey, Chris, can you keep this uploaded, this after you're done live streaming? I'd love to see the full stream later. Yes, I'm going to be leaving it up. Pick a wolf. Ain't nobody stealing my sparkle. You're goddamn right. Thank you for your story. Thanks for listening to it, Becca. Going out on the trampoline with my son. Damn right, Jamie. Get your jump on. I used to go to NA meetings when I lived in Kentucky. Since I moved back to Tennessee, I don't know how to find them. Kimberly, if you reach out to me on Twitter or email me, if you go to my About page, I know a bunch of people in Tennessee. I know a bunch of people in Tennessee who might be able to tell you about some meetings. Like, I know a ton of people in the Nashville, Brentwood area, so feel free to reach out. Any tips on cutting back on drinking? Yeah, Pika Wolf. This whole thing, like, get your ass to a meeting, try treatment, try therapy. I have a ton of videos about getting sober and different methods and things like that. I can only share my experience, but again, here, I'll share this too. Like I'm not the word of God. Like, contrary to some beliefs that I think I am, I'm not the word of God. Like what works for me might not work for you. So, like, you gotta try your own thing. Daily, my girl Daily. Can you speak a little bit about overcoming depression and anxiety after becoming sober? Aside from just listening to your sponsor and stuff like that, did you struggle with just functioning in life? Yeah, Daily. Yeah, I fucking did. I didn't know how to function as a human being. I didn't even know who the fuck I was. And yeah, I was more depressed and more anxious because, you see, the alcohol and the drugs were my anti-anxiety medication. They were my antidepressants, you know, and I didn't know what to do. So one thing was, I got on Lexapro, which is an anti-anxiety, anti-depression, but also daily, like that book Upward Spiral that I've talked about, or even Lost Connections. Like there's so many things to do to just deal with depression and getting connected again. You know what I mean? The biggest thing that helps me get out of depression is talking to other people and everything. Like, you know, I'm so fortunate to live with Tristan, and we could just sit and talk about shit. Sometimes she just literally sits right there, and I just vent and I rant and I look like a fucking lunatic. You know what I mean? And like, that's good. So find some people to talk to. Fuck. I'm so, woo-saw, Chris. I'm so upset that just the Facebook group and stuff are gone. All right. Oh, online meetings too. Exactly. intherooms.com, online meetings. Random, but do you oil your beard? No, Gary, I don't. Are you trying to get me to buy the new Beautiful Bastard stuff from Philip DeFranco? Gabrielle Rogers, do you like my song titles, Chris? Cloud9, Sugar and Spice, and me and some of my titles. You want to fight. Yeah, those are dope. I'm interested in what type of music you do if you ever want to email me some of your songs. Yeah, Daily. Find people to rant to. Thank you for sharing your story. I've been through a lot. 4 years clean. That's what I'm talking about, Renee. VRTX999. Yes, you are late, but I'm leaving this uploaded. Thank you, Wheat. Thank you guys all for sitting here. Like, I feel fucking amazing. If you guys want to feel better, fucking just go share your story. Just go share your story. I used to do this every single week, and I was telling Tristan, like, I haven't done this in so long. And that's just, you know, one of those things. Like, I need to do this more often. Like, I get to go speak at the high school again later this week and stuff like that. But when I was working in a treatment center, I was constantly doing this, and it feels great. So I need to figure out a way to do this more often here in Las Vegas. So I got to work on some things. Daily, if you ever need to rant, just shoot me DMs. Just fucking lose it. I don't know if I'll always reply, but just rant away. Oh, Super Esme 22, you've helped me so much. Glad you haven't been scared off by cancel culture. It's going to take more than that to scare me off, baby. More than that. I'm following you on Patreon and was curious, how have your life counseling sessions been going? They've been going good. I just did one this morning that was really good. So yeah. If you're in the Patreon and you want me to, because I need to get hours for life coaching, if you're in the Patreon, shoot me an email or a message on Patreon. All right, you guys are all, do therapists allow swearing so you feel more comfortable? All right, I'll answer this last question. So Danielle, one of my friends who's getting into the field, they were asking me, because they're like brand new to it, they're like, Chris, can I cuss? And for me personally, like, I cussed all the time working in the treatment center, all the time. But like, I think I got a lot of leeway, one, because I wasn't a therapist, so I didn't have to put on this professional type act, you know what I mean? Like, I was hired as a recovering drug addict, so like, I could talk how I wanted to. And I think, and this isn't to say that any other population isn't hardcore, because I know a lot of you are badasses, right? But I think with drug addicts and alcoholics, you can get away with cussing and being a little bit more, you know, like that. But when it's in a one-on-one session, like Tristan just said, her therapist hella swears, like, I also had to read my audience. Like, when I'm like, I mainly did big groups, and sometimes I would do one-on-ones. But if I had like if I had a young like punk kid in there, right? Like, I had to get on his level and talk like I ain't no bitch, you know what I mean? Like, we would just talk and like that, you know, like on that human level. But if I had like, you know, like a middle-aged or older woman in there, or a middle-aged or older man who was really professional, I had to change my tone when talking to him. That's one of the tricky things about YouTube, is that I'm just me. Like, I am always me, you know what I mean? But the audience has all their own type. Like, if I was talking to them one-on-one, I could change my energy, I can change the way I talk, I can change my profanity, I can change all sorts of things. But I've kind of just had to find my own voice for YouTube that it's authentically me, and some people don't like it, and that's cool. Like, there are other mental health channels where the tone is much different, or maybe it's more professional or whatever, but yeah, I gotta do me because that's how I get through to people, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, like, I can't, and that's one of the reasons I didn't like working in the corporate world. Like, I hate having to change my identity. Like, even though it's something that we all have to get used to in life, I just can't do that. It just doesn't feel right to me. Heck yeah, it is, Damien, and thanks for hanging out. But anyways, you guys are all amazing. I love you all so much. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with me throughout all this stuff. And I hope this video, for those of you who don't know me, it gives you some more context on who I am, where I come from, how I do things, and all that. I don't know. But, you know, again, I'm still a work in progress. And I guess I'll end with that. I'm still a work in progress, and I've never meant to come off as somebody who has all the answers. But we're doing this thing together, baby. I share my experiences. I share the things I've learned to try to help other people. That's all I do. It gives me meaning. It gives me purpose. And that's another reason you ain't scaring me off, because this gives me a reason to wake up in the morning, baby. Not just YouTube, all the other things too. By the way, make sure you go check out my website, therewiredsoul.com. I've been doing daily blogs. So daily, make sure you check out my daily blogs. I can't see Tristan's face right now, but she's probably laughing hysterically. Anyways, go to therewiredsoul.com. Check out my daily blogs. Yeah, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I share stuff there too. I've been more active on Twitter than Instagram. Anyways, you guys are all awesome. I love you all so much. And here, the last thing. I was gonna make a separate video, but truly thank you all so much. Thank you, anybody who supported me and stuck around, and you know who I am, and you understand my true motives and true intentions. Like, I know that it's easy to get caught up in the negative and the drama of things. Like, I know that from experience, but I really just want you all to know how much I truly fucking appreciate and value all of you. Like, I see other YouTubers like, you can't love all of your fans. That's impossible. I got love for you. All right? Chris from the Rewired Soul has love for you. Make a clip out of that shit. All right? Anyways, I don't know if this is going to get monetized because I cussed my fucking face off, but that's the real Chris. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned. I got 2 awesome videos coming out tomorrow. All right? Love you all. Mwah. Bye.